Welcome back to the Broadway Almanac. I'm George Harder, your host. Hard to believe that in 1966, when Cabaret first opened on Broadway, that a lot of people walked out in intermission. Remember, safe shows like Fiddler on the Roof and Hello, Dolly were still running. Sure, darker themed musicals like West Side Story in 1957, Gypsy in 1958 were preparing the way, but Cabaret in 1966, it just dripped with too much sexuality, it was too weird, and people left before finding out why. You see, Cabaret was an early experiment in making the concept musical. That is, a show in which the story is secondary to the central message or the metaphor. But Cabaret turned out to be a hybrid. It was half of a concept musical. Hal Prince, director and the producer, felt that in 1966, an audience for a musical comedy still needed a central romantic couple and a secondary comic couple, like you have in Oklahoma, in Brigadoon, or Carousel. And for Cabaret, that would be Fraulein Schneider and Herr Schultz. So Cabaret is two shows in one at no extra charge. It's a realistic book show with toe-tapping songs like Willkommen and Mein Herr, Don't Tell Mama, and it's a concept show like Company or Follies, whereas the songs comment on a central message. All right then, what is that central message? And why, after all of these years, is Cabaret still relevant and important? Cabaret is about how quickly the world can change without you realizing it. Cabaret is a warning. You're having fun one day and then suddenly you wake up and it's a scary world. It was the first big hit for the team of John Kander and Fred Ebb. Their first show was Flora the Red Menace in 1965, which, by the way, introduced the star power of the 18-year-old Liza Minnelli. John Kander modeled much of the music in Cabaret after the style of the time, the late 1920s in wide-open Weimar Germany, particularly the music of Kurt Weill from the Threepenny Opera. You can also hear in Kander's music a few nods in places to American jazz and so-called Dixieland of New Orleans. Cabaret is based on a 1951 stage play called I Am a Camera, which was adapted from Christopher Isherwood's 1939 autobiographical novel called Goodbye to Berlin. Isherwood writes that he arrived in Berlin in 1929 after hearing of its openly gay nightlife. He formed an intimate friendship with a gay 19-year-old cabaret singer named Jean Ross. And what they experienced together is pretty much what happens in the musical Cabaret. The writer, Cliff Bradshaw, is Isherwood. Sally Bowles, of course, is Jean Ross. To provide a bit of context, in 1918, after the Great War, the German government was transformed into a constitutional federal republic called the Weimar Republic. It was tough going at first, recovering from the war. But by 1924, Germany was enjoying relative prosperity. With it came social and cultural progress, permissive and liberal. Music and art changed radically, becoming decadent and strange to conservative eyes and ears. By 1928, Berlin had become a hub for hedonistic pursuits. And within certain ranks of the highly polarized German society, there was a demand to clean it up and somebody to blame. Enter Adolf Hitler, and we all know how that went. That's your Broadway Almanac. I'm George Harder. Thank you for joining me. So long until next time.